So what is the difference between linear and nonlinear dynamical neurofeedback? So this is really for people who maybe have heard of linear neurofeedback, they've maybe tried linear neurofeedback, or they really want to geek out on some of the ins and outs and the nitty-gritty of frequencies and what's happening with each type of neurofeedback. So when you think about linear neurofeedback, that's what comprises the vast majority of what's available. So what people are aware of when they hear of neurofeedback is usually linear. But there are some very important differences thanks to advancements in technology that we need to know about. And when you think about advancements in technology, you want to move in that direction. You don't want to be stuck in the past. So linear neurofeedback is a 2D model, and it's pretty antiquated. There needs to be a diagnosis made, so that's one difference. Usually a brain scan or a QEEG is performed as a preliminary test, and then a protocol is formulated based on that information, on that snapshot. And here is where the friction came in for myself and for the patients that I referred when I was practicing clinically, because it is protocol driven. Most linear systems require an administrator, and they need to usually be a licensed healthcare practitioner. And because there's more demand than there is supply, a bottleneck was created and my patients were subjected to these long wait times. They also sometimes had these mixed results, and we'll talk about that. But basically, it can really depend on the skills of the administrator who is developing this unique protocol. Now, this is very unlike the much more sophisticated mathematical algorithms that were developed by the two clinical psychologists that brought us Neuroptimal, the nonlinear neurofeedback that I used. Okay, so linear neurofeedback, again, protocols are designed to suppress or to augment certain specific electrical frequencies that the brain generates that are deemed good or possibly bad to achieve a certain state that is determined to be, that's what we want to see by this protocol. Nonlinear or dynamical, and I have to say here that Neuroptimal is the only such system in existence, is very different. With Neuroptimal, no administrator is required. Linear, administrator. Nonlinear, no healthcare professional administrator is required to administer this session. Neuroptimal is able to work across all available frequencies of the brain simultaneously, so no diagnosis or protocols are necessary or even practical. It's working globally on the entire brain. With a linear system, if you specifically target one frequency that maybe quiets the brain or another one that activates the brain, you run the danger of being overquieted or overactivated. And I actually did see this with some of the patients that I referred when I was in clinical practice, and that's what I meant by those mixed results. Some of them actually got worse because of this over or under stimulation. Now with Neuroptimal's unique training, you are flowing through the various frequencies on an as-needed basis, moment by moment. Each one of these frequency bandwidth is complementing the others. You really can't go too far in one direction because you are receiving feedback from the entire spectrum of frequencies in real time, moment by moment. So rather than manipulating by force using a protocol, Neuroptimal is designed to detect any emerging shift in brain activity at its earliest pre-conscious origins, before you're even consciously aware of it, and alert the central nervous system so that it can make the decision to move away from discomfort and toward order. Isn't that beautiful? Rather than focusing on a specific cluster of symptoms for weeks or months and then moving on to another one, Neuroptimal is designed to give the brain continual information about what it has just done so that it, as a self-learning mechanism, can use this information to organize itself and advance. So with neuroptimal, the nonlinear, the dynamical neurofeedback, the brain is simply interacting adaptively with itself moment by moment. It's not striving to produce, it's not striving to produce more of one frequency or less of another. While this might happen, you might actually produce more of one frequency or less of another. It's not because it's being forced, it's organically happening because of an intrinsic self-organizing principle and not something from outside imposing itself on the brain. So here's another analogy. I like to imagine a gymnast on a balance beam who's beginning to lose her balance or his balance. Linear neurofeedback might be likened to a coach reaching up to steady her, whereas nonlinear would be like strategically placed mirrors all around the gymnast, giving her or him real-time feedback as to the body, posture, and foot position, so that this gymnast can see why they are unsteady and make any adjustment which that gymnast chooses to make. Additionally, that gymnast would learn from this and grow from that adjustment that they chose to make, which would not have been possible if an external force like that coach moving them and steadying them for them was done. So for me, this was transformational. I personally had mental, emotional, and physical manifestations of chronic tension. In fact, I now work as an educator and as a coach, and I have been known to say, if we can all find a way to just relax, 99% of our complaints would disappear. Well, for me at least, this has proven true. I mean, I feel relaxed but energized. I have so much more optimism and creativity. It is like I'm getting to know myself all over again, and I like me. The sleep and the stress in our household has dramatically improved. You know, I have so many stories about my family to tell, but for their privacy, I let them tell their own stories. But I can just say that we're all able to see the changes in each other, and it's a beautiful thing.